so great to connect with the wonderful Stephen C. Miller.
Dude, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thanks for the great work you create. It's certainly entertaining for us. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad people enjoy it.
Absolutely. And werewolves. Wow. What a trip. What a trip this is. Um, it's awesome. It's sort of like, The Purge meets werewolves, right? But what I
Right.
think everyone's going to really love about it is it's just such a throwback to old school, like special effects. So and especially from Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr., who've done such great things with like Alien and Predator films and things like that. So, can you unpack a little bit about what the motivation was to use practical effects here?
Yeah, look, first and foremost, I'm an 80s kid, right? So I grew up with that, and that's what it felt like I was wanting to see. And that's what I wanted to make. I've been wanting to make a werewolf movie for quite some time. I've been around the block for a minute. And so getting the opportunity, I know when I first sat down with the producers, the first thing I said is this movie needs to be practical. It needs to be a throwback. We have to give the audience something that maybe they haven't seen in quite some time, and they're so used to CGI. So maybe the practical will be a little bit of a wild ride for them. And then the question was, who do we get? And like you said, going after Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff was like sort of a pipe dream. But I reached out to Alec personally, and he was insanely gracious. Brought me into his studio. We sat down, we talked. I let him know, hey man, this is an indie movie. We're not going to have a ton of money, but we want to put whatever money we do have on screen, and we want to put them towards these werewolves. And so, to our luck, he had not done a werewolf movie before, so it was intriguing for him, and he decided this was something he wanted to take on. So it was a really smooth process to get him on board and to really get this creature created, to let him come up with some really great creature designs for us was a lot of fun.
I bet. I bet. So you say you're an '80s kid. Are you just pinching yourself now? It's like seems like your dreams are coming true.
It's 100% surreal. I don't really know how to explain it. It's surreal on a level of getting to make a werewolf film. When I was making it, there were plenty of times on set where I would just look around and there's seven of these guys in these suits. There's guys with animatronics off to the side running all of the animatronics and the faces for all these wolves. And I'm talking to the werewolf in his ear. And there was a couple moments where I forgot that I'm making this movie because I'm just so engulfed, and it's such a surreal moment that I think I even said into the mic. And I remember Ian, one of the guys, I think I said into the mic, "Can you believe this is real?" And I'm saying it to myself, but it came out, and I remember him just laughing, and you could see a werewolf laughing off in the corner, which was pretty fun. And then to see it actually come out is another moment for me because this is really my first wide theatrical movie, and for it to be a werewolf movie, I don't know that it gets much better than that.
Right, right. Now I might be reading into it, but I mean, but are werewolves like symbolic of something else from within us? Why do we love werewolf movies?
It's got to be because the idea that we all have a little bit of a wild side, and we all want that moment where we can't take it anymore, and we wish we could just transform into something else and let that beast sort of take over and take those raw emotions that we have and create something we weren't willing to do, without that creature. I feel like that's got to be part of it. I mean, I think we're all looking to get a little bit crazy sometimes,
Yeah, especially now, maybe.
especially now, right? Like with the time we're living in, it feels like everyone wants to beast out a little bit. And I feel like that this movie sort of hits the right moment.
Right, exactly. Can you talk a little bit about working with Frank Grillo here? Because this is like, wow. I mean, he's great anyway, but I mean, it's a great thing that happens to him in this.
Yeah, this is another level for Frank. I feel like he really brought it. He was one of those guys that he was our first choice. So to kind of hit him up and be like, we've been talking on the side about trying to find something. And so when I brought him this and how excited he got about the script, and how wonderful he was through the whole process of even creating the wolf. It's always dicey when you're showing your lead actor the wolf for the first time and what it's going to look like. And Frank was just, over the moon for it, number one, but he was just so gung ho, number two. And so like he was just always first one on set with me. He was always the one right in the mix with me. If there was blood that needed to happen, he wanted more of it. He was so much a gamer. It's incredible. He was just a lot of fun to work with. I had a total blast. I mean, Frank is the man. That's just all I can say.
Right, right. Well, speaking of another man, you worked with Bruce Willis on a number of
Yeah.
occasions, and I'm curious. Extraction, Escape Plan 2. I'm curious how working with Bruce Willis influenced some of your future choices or the ways that you um, dive into your films.
Well, I mean, working with Bruce taught me insanely amount of much because he was one of my first big Hollywood actors that I ever worked with. And the fact that Bruce was really gracious with me as far as directing goes and really allowing me to do the scenes how I wanted to, but when he thought something could be different, he would talk to me about it. And we would just really get into conversations about dealing with him as an actor, dealing with major action stars. And it really sort of allowed me to understand how they work, to understand how they want to move on set and or not move, or how they want to keep a pace and keep up and not really want to sit in their chair for too long. I mean, Bruce was the guy that just wanted to work and get through it. And I think that really informed a lot of my directorial decisions moving forward because, I learned from the best. He really taught me a lot. He was really great with me. He never stepped on my toes. He always allowed me to go for what I wanted to go for. And I don't know what that was other than he just trusted me. And I felt like that was something I earned very early on with him. Maybe because we really just talked on a human level first. It was never really about my grand vision of the movie. It was just about hanging out and being on set and having fun making a movie. And I think that really resonated with him. And so he was just really giving back to me and really trying to show me like, hey, this is how you work with this. This is how this is going to work better. And so, it was really a really cool moment in my career.
I love that. You get a little bit of great advice from the one and only legend, Bruce Willis. That's so great.
Yeah.
We're going to go through a few of your other co-stars here. So, Nicolas Cage, I mean, what don't you think most people might realize? What do you think most people might not realize about who Nicolas Cage is as a person, a performer?
I don't know that many people would know that Nicolas Cage is a huge metalhead. Like, I think our first conversations, like, we were just talking about metal bands for like an hour. I don't know that we talked about the movie that we were going to do. He'd flown me in to meet with him to sort of see if I was the guy for the job. And we talked about music for the first hour before we even got to the movie. And just had a blast talking about bands, talking about metal, talking about what he loved about that stuff and how that sort of is infused into his personality when acting. And you can kind of see it when you think about it. You're like, okay, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But he's also a guy that really loves to improvise. And I didn't really know that. I mean, obviously, I'd worked with him. So getting the chance to be on set and him saying, hey, look, I'm really going to go in this whole direction with this scene. Can we try it? And, if Nick wants to try something, I was all for it.
I think that's so great. What groups, what heavy metal groups really kind of stood out for you two?
I mean, Metallica was one that stood out for me because it was like he was like into that and Black Sabbath, and I was like, dude, we're talking my language right now. This is we could talk about this all day, but yeah, I mean, we just had and there was a little bit more obscure bands like this band called Darkest Hour that he had heard of that I was like, you've heard of them? Because they felt really underground to me. So we just had a real geek out moment with some really fun metal bands.
That's so cool. That's really, really cool. All right, so Sly Stallone and Dave Bautista is you've worked with them, obviously. Um, I'm wondering if you could unpack some of the things that you may have learned from Sly and Dave or what they're like together on set.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dave is an amazing human being. Like he really is. He's just such the sweetest guy. He's a when I was directing Dave, he was at his height of the bulk, and so he was a big dude, and he could tower, and so like it would be really easy to be intimidated, but Dave made it so easy to just sort of slide in, do my job. And he allowed me to do it. He's just another actor that's a total pro, knows his lines, and not just his. He kind of knows everybody's, and he knows everything that's working around him. And so it was really cool for when we brought Sly in because Sly's again another total pro. And he is, look, Sly's a director in his own merit. So for him to come in and I have fighting scenes that I'm having to direct with him, number one, I'm trying not to really geek out and be like, okay, I'm directing Rocky on how to fight a sequence. Like, do I even need to do this or did you just know what's going on? And so it was really fun with those moments. But to bring those two together, we had a moment. There was a moment in the car where they're acting, and it was Sly's first scene in the movie. And I had a fun thing I always did with actors when they would first come to my set is the first take of the first scene of the day, if of their ever working with me, I would say I got it on take one, no matter what. And Dave already knew this, but Sly did not. And so Sly gave his performance, and I was said, cut, moving on. And Sly was like, wait, that only one take? And Dave Bautista said something like, "Welcome to a Stephen C. Miller movie," and everyone started to have laughing, and we just, we had a good time. But their dynamic on set was really fun. They were really playful together. They got along great. They just understood each other. So it was a really fun set.
It's so great. Well, I think one of the biggest buzz that's kind of going around right now is your with Dylan Sprouse and Mason Gooding and Under Fire, which
Yeah.
is again, it sounds great. I mean, can you unpack the vibe of that film and the vibe of these two actors who are kind of emerging as these kind of action heroes now?
Yeah, like, look, I've been working with a lot of really great action heroes. And so to work with some upcoming action guys that were ready to kind of break out was really cool for me. It was a really fun experience. I love movies like Bad Boys. I mean, Bad Boys is probably my go-to buddy movie when it comes to action. And so when I talked to Mason and Dylan, I mean, that's what we kind of studied. We were like, look, how do we make our movie as fun as Bad Boys? How do we make people really engage with these characters? And we just really went that route and leaned wholeheartedly into this sort of action comedy fun movie about two guys who get into a situation they shouldn't be in, and how do they get out. And so we had a lot of fun making that movie.
Wow. So do you really see them as emerging as really great potential action heroes in the future?
Yeah, I do. When working with them, you kind of get those vibes with certain actors that you're like, okay, these guys have that potential. And they do. They just their vibe, their presence on screen when you put the camera to them and how they look on camera. There's just something about it that you can sort of see that, hey, these guys got it. And I really hope they get to expand on that.
Very nice. Very nice. So a few more questions for you. Back in 2012, everyone loved Silent Night, and we still love
Yeah.
Silent Night. I mean, if you had a chance to do another kind of holiday themed kind of horror film with an iconic holiday character, what holiday would it be? What character would it be? What would you like to see happen?
Man, that's a good question. I would probably have to say, I mean, it's I mean, obviously it's been done so many times with Halloween, but I just love that character so much that I would love to take a stab at Halloween. I mean, another one would be Friday the 13th. I mean, both of those are just such iconic characters. To be able to try to put my name in the ring for something like that would be really fun. And to try to give it something that hasn't been done would also be a super big challenge because they've gone in so many different directions with those characters. But I think something like that would be a lot of fun.
Wow, so a kind of Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger kind of
Yeah.
multiverse, maybe kind of Stephen Miller kind of outing. Wow.
Yeah, my take on that. I would love to kind of figure that out. Who knows?
Very cool, very cool. So, one last question for you. Is there one actor who truly intrigued you, got you, like it touched you, made you think the most, or just really stands out for you? And who would that be?
I think growing up, I mean, it was probably it was why can't why did his name just completely blank out of my head, dude? How embarrassing. It's obviously it's Marty McFly, and I can't think of his name right now. Why can't I think of
Michael J.
his name?
Fox.
Maybe Michael J. Fox. Oh
Yeah.
my God. One of those moments. Michael J. Fox was a guy that hit me hard growing up because he was just in some of my favorite movies. And then he did movies like The Frighteners, which was so weird and cool and horror. And just the kind of journey he's been on to me was always a kind of a journey of like, it felt like I was kind of riding that journey of don't give up. Things are going to get hard. And obviously his situation is so different. But he was just someone that I looked up to as that just kept pushing himself, working hard, and making really cool things. It's just something I always strive to do.
I think it's great. How about one actor you've worked with?
Oh man, I mean, easily, I think that's going to be me and Aaron Eckhart had such a good time on set. And Aaron was a guy that really, if there was anybody that really pushed me to be, I would always say, I don't know if I'm an actor's director. I like to shoot. I'm a shooter. And Aaron was one of those guys who really pushed me into being an actor's director and really sort of, took me to the side and was like, hey man, you can't say that about yourself. You are an actor's director. You really know how to talk. You really know how to find what you're looking for and get it out of us. So he was someone that really sort of touched me in a way where it was like, he, like a brother sort of feeling, like kind of wrapped his arms around me a couple times and said, what he how he cared about me, and that this was a lot of fun to do. So it was just some really fun moments.
That's really, really great. And what would you love for audiences to take away from Werewolves?
I just want them to feel like I want them to come out feeling satisfied. I think that is the big goal from a werewolf movie is are you satisfied? Transformations, werewolves, did that all hit for you? I want them coming out having fun and feeling satisfied.
Very, very cool. Hey, thank you so much. It's great to connect with you, and I think people will be pleasantly surprised by the film. They're going to love it.
I hope so, man, and really appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, you be well.